Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Booze and Boobs podcast. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Katrina. Thanks for joining us today as we talk about some of our favorite horror movies.
We created this podcast as a way to give women more of a voice in horror. Men dominate most industries, especially film and television.
And that also goes for podcasts. We'll focus on female characters, motivations, or just expectations placed on women in horror, even if the situation is happening to a man.
We're excited you're here and we hope you love it.
Now let's get to today's movie.
It's summer, it's Pride, it's Sleepaway Camp.
Woo!
Consider this like tons of kids running off of a bus and they're all so excited. Woo! Sleepaway
Yeah,
Camp.
nobody is this excited for summer camp. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, they're just really excited to leave their parents.
Maybe, and maybe the parents are really excited for them to leave.
Well, some of them left for good.
Yep. I did ask my dad. I was like, did parents just send their kids away to summer camp to get rid of them during while school was not in he's like, yeah, pretty much. I think so.
Wasn't me. I was stuck.
He was like, I don't think you ever. I said, I went to church camp like twice. That's it.
I went to church camp, but my mom was the children's pastor, so I was just with my mom. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Sleepaway Camp from 1983, written and directed by Robert Hiltzik. Katrina and I talked about this, about how we should conduct the format of this episode. So we agreed we're going to do just a really quick summary. So if you have not seen Sleepaway Camp, stop now if you don't want any spoilers, because we're just going to spoil it right at the beginning. And then we're going to go through it. That way we'll be able to connect what happens at the end all the way throughout.
So I had actually never seen Sleepaway Camp before this. So this movie was new to me. Instead of a summary, maybe we just do the disclaimer of
the quick summary of Sleepaway Camp is a brother and sister, a young brother and sister are boating with their dad, and the boy and the dad are accidentally killed in a boating accident.
Girl and the dad. We're giving it away.
We're giving it away at the end.
Oh, you can say a child if you child.
In fact, the quick summary of Sleepaway Camp is two young children, a boy and a girl, are boating with their dad, and one of the children and the dad are accidentally killed in a boating accident. 8 years later, it's revealed that Angela, the young girl, survived the accident and is now living with her aunt and her cousin Ricky. Ricky and Angela go to summer camp, where Ricky has been there before, Angela has never been, and she is bullied pretty much the entire time that she's there for various quirks that she has or doesn't have, I guess. There is a lot of murder that goes on, some pretty gruesome murders too. Great for 1983. And at the end, it is revealed that Angela has been the murderer the whole time. But the extra special twist of Sleepaway Camp is that it's revealed that Angela was actually the child killed in the boating accident, and Peter, the son, had survived, but Aunt Martha decided that it wasn't appropriate to have two boys in the house, and she always wanted a little girl. So she forced Peter to live as Angela for the rest of his life, and Angela is Peter and Angela is a boy. And then the movie just ends right there. So for the purpose of commentary on Sleepaway Camp, we will refer to Angela and as she for this episode.
Yeah, because during the movie, she is being Angela. I say we can probably just get right into it.
I got a lot to say, so let's go.
Okay.
The opening credit scene of Sleepaway Camp is credits over what looks to be the fall at a summer camp. There are voices overheard in different areas like the mess hall, volleyball, basketball courts, things like that, of children. And then at the very end, as it's tracking over the entire location, we see that what is Camp Arawak is now for sale. And that's all we're left with. So my question I would like to know is, were they setting this like it's like a flash forward? Like after the events of the movie, it's only like the hauntings and the ghosts of children of summer camp past that live there while the camp is for sale, because it's like fall time, so like summer camp is over.
I would say that it's like, yeah, the after effect of everything, that he had to sell it, close it down, because there was even like a sheriff's warning on like
Well, Mel's dead.
Yeah. So I'm guessing his family, if he had any, it doesn't sound like he really had any, didn't want it.
Me neither.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. No, thank you.
Honestly, I kind of identify with Mel in this movie a little bit, and I should not admit that, but do a little.
So after the opening credits, we flash back to a father, son, and daughter on a small little sailboat. You know, the dad is trying to relax, and of course, the children think that they need to fight and be annoying and play pranks. I will say, when I first started watching this movie and they started talking, I was like, I don't know if I can handle this, because it's like that New York 80s, like, father, like,
No, when the kids are fighting and little Angela is like, he started it. I love it.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. So once I got into the movie, I was like, all right, I can handle this. So we cut to Craig and Mary Ann on the boat with a skier behind them. And Mary Ann is trying to get Craig to like, oh, let me drive. And, oh God, it's annoying.
Yeah, I think that they're campers from like the camp across the lake. So what is the Sleepaway Camp, and then the Bakers. So John is the dad, Peter and Angela are the little kids. I think that like they're just all at the lake, and then like it's like the family just seeing the campers across the lake, and then
because they do ask like, can we go to summer camp and learn that one day? And he's like, oh, maybe. Which I'm like, oh, maybe they shouldn't.
Well, fate has a way.
Yeah. So the kids prank their dad by pushing him into the water, and he seems like a good dad because he's like not even angry about it.
And you little schemers.
Yeah, they're like playing in the water. We switch back to Craig and Marianne. Craig gives in, and I made a note. I was like, pretty eyes and boobs will get you far in life. Will get you a lot of things.
Yeah. So now that Marianne can drive the little boat.
Yeah.
The girl who's like water skiing, she's not having a good time. She's like, can we stop now? I'm done. But Craig and Marianne can't hear her, really. They're just like, yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah, and so she like is yelling back like, why? Like she's trying to talk to the skier, not paying attention to where she's going, and neither is Craig. And ends up, it's kind of drawn out, but basically Marianne runs over the boat, kills the dad and the child. And we see one child like with their floating device like chilling. But before that, they talk about Dr. Thomas is coming, which is Aunt Martha. But we also see there's a man on the beach who's like devastated by what he saw, which was actually the father's lover boy. And like they were laughing and giggling about it, but it was cute. Oh, did you want to talk about
to your point, where I don't know the name of the man who's on the beach who's like John's lover, but they're obviously together. So whether it's like John's children, Angela and Peter, and mystery lover man, I don't know if it's like, I don't think that they adopted. I think that those are John's kids, and I think that Dr. Thomas / Aunt Martha is John's sister.
Right. That's kind of how they make it seem.
So, and it seems like from this, very quick first scene, is that they've got a good family. Like they're gay, they're just living their lives. They got kids. They're on the summer. They're having fun, and then the family's gonna come. One of the kids asks if Ricky is coming. John says no, Ricky is with his dad. So we can get that there's a little bit of familial drama, like in the connecting side. But yeah, how you mentioned Marianne, unfortunately, uh, drove the boat over. John, the dad, and Angela are actually killed in the boating accident, and Peter has survived, but we don't know that. We cut to 8 years later into a really nice house, and Aunt Martha is calling down Ricky and Angela to get them ready to get on the bus to go to summer camp.
Can I just say that I hate the way that Aunt Martha talks, and she did that sing song, like come down thing. I hated every minute of it, and I've hated her since the moment she opened her mouth. Like,
I have a problem when people have a problem with this character. I
I
I get that like she's acting different, but then I'm like, hello, this is the whole point. So she's
right,
just acting. I hate when people say it's a bad performance, she's a bad character. Is she like enjoyable and I want to spend all my time with her? No, but she is absolutely essential. And if we didn't see some weirdness from her in the beginning with like some kind of like talking to herself and having to tie the string around her finger and her weird incantations of her speech cadence, how would we get at all what has happened because of her?
which and I agree with that. I just hate her as a person, who she is, like the mother that sings the words that they're saying, and like, oh, I wonder, and I was like, I would hate for this to be my mother. That's basically what I was thinking. It's like, no,
But
no,
if
send me
that
to summer
was
camp forever.
if that was your mother and if you were used to it, that's just how it would be.
Yeah, it was like, oh, my mom's a little quirky.
And so Aunt Martha is saying like, she packs some snacks for the drive up to their summer camp. Aunt Martha says that she created the physicals for the kids to go to summer camp. So Aunt Martha has doctored the physicals. And we don't know why she's saying, don't tell anyone where you got these physicals done, even though they know I'm a doctor. So it's just it's a weird thing to
Yeah,
say because if you're a doctor,
why does
shouldn't
it matter?
everything be fine?
Hmm.
And then Aunt Martha tells Ricky to take care of my little girl. And Ricky, he's
Yeah,
over his mom. He's like, okay, can we just go now? Goodbye, mom.
yeah, he's ready to be gone.
And Angela doesn't speak. She's just there. And I don't think it's very noticeable in the first scene where we see what, like 13-year-old Angela.
Yeah, she just seems like she's just like tired and shy and awkward. Like she doesn't seem like there's anything like wrong with her. She probably it looks like she doesn't really like Aunt Martha, but that's probably true.
That might be true. One thing I have to mention is they have like the tiniest little bags with them if they're supposed to be going to summer camp for however many weeks. I would like to assume that maybe their suitcases and everything were already outside. I don't know if they were getting driven to wherever the bus was picking them up or if the bus was picking them up right there.
Yeah, that was not a summer's worth of clothes or shoes or a baseball glove. Like those bags were so small.
Yeah, they were so tiny. That's one of the things about this being a low budget movie. It's like how much of this was by design or by budget.
Right. So in this next scene, I was just, ugh, we see all these buses pulling up to the camp and just children full out sprinting. And I'm like, for what? Oh, Mel and Ronnie are still yelling at them. All these children are literally sprinting off these buses while Mel, who is the owner of the camp, and Ronnie, who's one of the counselors, are telling them to like hurry up, get there, like go faster. And I'm like, I don't think they physically can. Like these
I
children
I
are
love this like little scene. So like we're getting the introduction to the camp and the counselors and like our main players that we're gonna see. And yeah, you're right. These kids are just they're running. They're running like crazy. And I feel like Ronnie, like he's got his little clipboard and he's like, okay, like this name, you go to this cabin, this area, this direction, you're on this team. And Mel's just like, let's go. We don't have all day. We're burning daylight. Like it's kind of just like a funny, I think it's just funny because
Yeah.
Mel overall, I would say like is not a good guy, but he is an enjoyable, entertaining character because of the way he talks. I would like to assume that if you own a summer camp and you're involved, as I believe that he is, like there is like some kind of gentle quality about him for kids. I mean, he very much is driven by the money that he's making on
Mm-hmm.
this for sure. But I think that it's funny that he's out there and he's like, we're burning daylight. Like, I didn't get like an ick from him just then. I thought it was funny, Ronnie being
Yeah.
like, "This is the rules," and like, "Here's what
Yeah.
we're setting out," and Mel's just like, "Bah, bah, bah, bah."
Yeah. He's like, just move, move.
I
Like
loved
he's
it.
ready to get started. But then we get a glimpse of the kitchen staff, which we hate.
Boo,
Instantly, before he even spoke, what was his name?
Artie.
Artie. Before Artie, the head cook, even spoke, hated him. Hated. And he makes some disgusting comments about all the children, basically saying young, fresh chicken, like we call them baldies and no such thing as too young. And the other kitchen staff, like, aren't calling him out on being disgusting either. Like, they're
No,
just allowing it.
the only other one who talks is Ben, who is Robert
Right.
Earl Jones, who is James Earl Jones's father. So we got in 1983, the father of Mufasa and Darth Vader is laughing along about probably very widely known child abuse. And it fits the context of the movie. It's gross, it's awful, it's terrible, but that's also like the point is that it's terrible.
Right. It's meant to be.
And what happens is well deserved, and I'm fine with it.
I think he could have gotten it worse, honestly. I think they could have done more to him. But also, part of me also thought like maybe the kitchen staff is concerned that if they like stand up to Artie, that he'll like tell Mel he needs replacements because he is the head cook. I don't know how much power he truly yields in the kitchen.
I feel like that's a fair assessment, though, just in the way that
Well, and it
power
is the
dynamics
80s,
go.
and it is the 80s, and all the rest of the kitchen staff are people of color. So I'm like, when they're in that whole like, who you gonna believe? More than likely, Mel is gonna believe Artie.
We go over to Ricky, who is introducing Angela to his friend Paul, who they've gone to camp with before, or Ricky had gone to camp with before. Angela's shy. He says that it's Angela's first time away from home. And I'm wondering, in the 8 years, is this the first time that Aunt Martha has let Angela like out on her own into the world?
I feel like it's a fair thing that maybe you haven't gone to sleepaway camp or to like big trips away from home before you're 13.
Well, that's true. And also it's potential that like Aunt Martha is nervous that, if she hasn't conditioned Angela properly enough, that she'll either revert or tell somebody or talk to somebody about something.
I feel
So,
like the abuse has gotten as far as it's gonna get
right.
for Angela.
Yeah.
Because that's also the thing. I think that from what we know of Aunt Martha so far, she just seems weird and would not
Mhm.
describe what is happening as abuse.
Right.
So,
Because she's delusional.
and then Angela's, I mean, it's a fair trauma response that people pretty much go nonverbal.
Yeah,
Everyone
absolutely.
attributes it to being quiet and shy,
Hmm.
but we'll find out everything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and then
Paul's
Ricky
totally
said,
fine with Angela just being Angela. He's just like, hi. And then he tells Ricky, he's like, have you seen Judy yet? Ricky says no. And then Paul like holds his hands out over his chest and he's like, man, oh man. Like her boobs got big, and I'm like, oh well, here we go. This is like the summer trope for the
Yep.
kids for sure.
Yeah, this is like summer love, get what you can while it's hot, and then go back home. So Ricky gives Angela a tour, and during that tour, Judy, he sees her and he's like, hey Judy. And she blows him off because she's talking to the older guys, because they're probably Ricky and Judy are around the same age, I'm assuming, but Judy obviously has advanced because don't you know that girls mature faster than boys? And that's really the first like interaction we see with Judy, and I also hated her as well.
Oh,
Like,
see, and
she
I loved her. I love the character of Judy. So yeah, like Judy and Ricky, according to Ricky, were steadies last year. So I think because Angela and Judy are also in the same bunk, they're probably within like a year or two of each other in age. So if we know that Angela is 13 and Ricky has been going to that camp for at least 3 years, according to Paul, that I mean, because there are young kids at that camp too.
yeah.
So he could be anywhere from 14 to 15. I wouldn't say that he's 16.
He's not.
I
No.
don't know even that he's 15. So maybe he's just a year older than her, but then that also begs the question of if Angela has lived with Ricky and Aunt Martha since she was 5, and if Ricky is a year older, let's say that he's currently 14, that means that he started going to that camp when he was 11. So then why would Angela have not been able to go? Unless it's just a plot point that Ricky's there and he has a relationship with these other characters just so we can move on.
Yeah, and maybe Angela refused to go before, and this is the first time she accepted. So maybe she wasn't. I mean, she's not really a social butterfly.
Also a very good point. We don't know. It's just what's happening.
We don't know. Yeah. But I do think it's really nice, and that Ricky is a good cousin brother, because he's like being, trying to make sure she feels comfortable. Like, hey, I'm going to be in this bunk if you need anything. Like, he seems genuine. Like, he does care about Angela.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he does, he throughout this movie is like defending her, like
left and right,
fighting for her tooth and nail the whole way.
That's one thing that I do really like about this movie. And I mean, besides the fact that like they're all kids, like they are children in this. It's not like it's the new Friday the 13th where everyone's obviously like 25 and then playing like they're 17 years old. Like these are kids with a very heavy subject material across the board. But according to all the kids, like, I mean, I love Sleepaway Camp. So I've watched like every documentary and interview thing about it. So like everybody says, except for Jonathan Tiersten, who played Ricky, that this was such a good time for them. They loved being able to play these characters. They loved being able to like, you get the summer camp feeling when you're working on a production. And I have a background working in like film and television and stuff like that. Nothing major, but it is really fun. Like when you're on like your own project, it's just, everything's about the project. Everything's about what you're doing that day. You build your relationships with the people that you're working with. And it's just really fun like that. So it's great that the kids mostly had that experience. It's unfortunate, from what Jonathan Tiersten has said, that it was really, really a struggle for him, but his performance was fantastic. I think it was great.
So we finally get into the bunk, and I have to say that these like bunk cabin houses look like houses, like from the outside. I'm like, is this just like a whole condo? But no, it's just a cabin. So it seemed a little fancy to me for the 80s, but Mel must have been getting his money, in my opinion.
Well, I think that stuff used to look like actual residences and dwelling places until like crazy capitalism got into it. Because they have their bunks set up, which I mean, there's like what 8 or 10 of them in there, like bunks just on like the opposite side of each other. And then they had like
A shower room and
like
bathroom.
a shower room that looked like it had at least,
Stalls.
yeah, like 3 or 4
Mhm.
stalls maybe. It looked like when you walk from the bunk space like into the bathrooms and stuff that there's like a separate like toilet stall area. It looks like the other side might have had more of a closet thing because they had like dressers and stuff for your folding clothes. They had like shelves for
All your stuff.
supplies and activities.
Yeah.
Like this was like, yeah, it was fully set up, like ready for people to be able to live there for days
Right.
at a time, weeks.
So we finally meet Meg and Susie, the counselors that are going to be in charge of Angela's bunk and Judy's. And Meg introduced, when she first introduced herself, she's like, the name's Meg, M-E-G. I liked her. And then I found out that she's a pick-me girl like Judy, and I didn't like her anymore. I did start out liking Meg, but then she got abusive and I didn't like her anymore. But this is where we see Angela actually be a little bit more awkward than shy. So Angela is like silently staring at Judy. And then like Judy's kind of like, what the fuck are you looking at? And Susie goes up to her and is like, Meg, this is the one that like Ronnie mentioned her. Like, it's not good when the counselors have to give like a pre-talk about you. Like, this is the shy one or the weird one. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely something to very subtly let us know like there's something else kind of going on. And I think what we're meant to believe on the first watch of this is that, hey, Angela comes from like a horrible, tragic family accident on this lake. So
Yeah,
let's be a little gentler to her.
because the first time watching this, I did think like, oh, she's still traumatized. Like, I doubt she'll even touch water because, you know, it was a tragedy on the water, that water. I wondered if now is Angela looking at Judy in like awe, in like, I want to be her, I want to be with her? Like, why is she staring at Judy? Or is it because she knows that Ricky and her were like dating last month or last year?
I think it's a little mix of everything. I think that Judy has been established as like the it girl for the deal. And I feel like it's not uncommon for girls to want to study that. I think having knowledge of a history with her cousin and then also seeing Judy be mean to her cousin and then be mean to
Right.
her triggers like, I don't like you.
Yeah, it's the I don't like you, but also like study. If she hasn't been around girls like that, it's like watching girls to see like what are girls like, you know, in this
Oh,
situation.
yeah. Yeah.
Because
Highlight that.
I mean, she has Aunt Martha as an example, and that's not a good example.
Aunt Martha is also a grown woman.
Right.
So
Not a
probably, we don't know anything about school, if Angela goes to public school or not. So yeah, this could be the first opportunity where she's around, pubescent girls.
So after the awkward interaction with Angela and Judy, we go to the cafeteria, which is like a big, like
Like a mess
it's
hall.
like, yeah, it's just like a big mess hall. And Meg goes up to Ronnie and Mel, and she's talking to them about Angela's not eating. We can't hear anything. But then as Meg leaves, we see Mel smack her ass. And I did not see that the first time around. But I was like, the second time around, I was like, she wasn't even mad about that. So we go to the cafeteria, which looks like a giant mess hall, really, where all the kids are eating. And we see Meg go up to Ronnie and Mel to talk to them. And as Meg is leaving to go back to Angela, Mel smacks her on the ass. And she's
Gross.
not mad about it. So Mel and Ronnie
Meg.
Meg and Ronnie come up to Angela And Meg's like, look, she hasn't eaten anything since she's been here. And Ronnie like gets down on her level, actually talks to her like a person, is like, hey, why don't we go try to find you something to eat? So he takes her, Ronnie takes Angela to the kitchen to go see gross ass Artie about, something that she might like. And
I know.
while
I like
he's
when Ronnie went in there and he's like, because Artie's like, what's the problem? And Ronnie's like, there's a problem. She doesn't like your food. I'm like, if somebody came and said that to my face, I would cry. Now we
so
get into Katrina's naming of the scenes. So
well, I don't even know if I did the last one, did I? Oh no, my screen is frozen. Hold on. Oh yeah, no, I didn't get anything. I didn't get we head into Cafe Del Nasty, which is Artie. So Ronnie brings in Angela, says, your food's not good. We need to find her something to eat that she will eat. And then somebody says, hey, Ronnie, you got a call with Meg. So Ronnie leaves Angela alone with Artie. And he's like, come on back here, like puts his arm around her. Don't touch people. Puts his arm around her and it's like, maybe there's something in the walk-in we can find. So we see Angela go into the walk-in with Artie, and then we go back to the cafeteria and we see Ricky, who's looking for Angela. Well, thankfully. And they're like, oh, they took her to the kitchen. So then we go back. Artie is like unbuckling his pants when Ricky walks in. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Artie pushes him up against the box. He's like, you didn't say nothing. And is all mad. They run out. And why Artie didn't buckle his pants before leaving? I don't know why, but the kids run away. Ben sees them and Mel, I think, right?
yeah, I think Mel is in there.
Yeah. So the kids leave. Ben and Mel are like, what just happened? He's like, oh, I think I scared him, and was like buckling his pants back. And Ben knows. Like, Ben is obviously aware, but Mel, I don't think does. Because Mel looks suspicious.
Yeah, Mel, because yeah, you're right. The kids run right past Ben and Mel, and Artie says, like, I think I scared them, and Mel's just like looking.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, depending on how much Mel saw or didn't see that we did see, maybe he didn't see like the belt buckling or anything. I mean, we don't truly know. But I don't think that Mel would have supported child abuse like that. But
No.
we don't really even get an opportunity to find out, because
Not really.
the next scene is we just see Artie and Ben getting ready to make dinner and stuff. And I had the thought too, it's like, if you're a cook at a summer camp, like, you're always cooking. You're always getting something ready. Like the counselors or the activities leaders or probably anything else, they have like a break time. But when you're a cook at a summer camp where there are a bunch of kids, you're cooking constantly. And everybody makes, oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, and the pot that comes up in this next scene, I've never seen a pot that tall. How do you even get water to boil in that thing is what I want to know.
Oh my gosh. See, Katrina, you're pulling out every like comment about this movie that everybody makes, and I don't understand it. Like, where is,
I mean, it's
of course
comically
it's a
large
pot. It's an industrial sized pot because they're cooking for 86 billion children.
Which I
Like,
understand, but
I've seen this movie twice in the movie theater. There's a local theater near me that does like summer scary movies or Friday night frights or whatever. So I've seen this movie every time it's in there because I really enjoy this movie. And everybody, like, this is a pardon the pun, a campy movie. Like, the editing is not perfect. Like, there's long cuts of things when it should just be like action, action, action. Some of the dialogue is really rickety. I get that. But the amount of people who can't like just sit and like take a movie seriously for what it is, it just drives me up the wall. And everyone's like, "Oh, it's a giant pot." And I'm like, "Of course it's a giant pot. Why wouldn't it be a giant pot?" That's why they were checking to see if it was boiling. Everything makes sense for what they're doing. Like I think that this movie, for what it is very tight. I think, especially once you've seen it more than once, like so many things all fall into place. I think the character performances are very intense. Katrina's looking away from me because I'm going off on like an autistic
No,
rant right now.
I'm reading my note. But no, I understand, but I understand the size of the pot because there are so many children. I'm just saying I've never seen one that big.
You've never
And
been a
it's
cook for 6 billion kids.
no, and I'm sure there's other things that I've like never gonna see, but it's just like that's a big pot. But
It's just stuff
it's
like
just
this
something
that like
like
takes people out of the movie to like make them think about it. And I'm like, this does not compute to me. Like I'm like, yes, absolutely, this makes sense. So it's just like the calling out, and then I can't remember what it is. There's something later in the movie that happens that like is kind of like supposed to be a spooky part, but then everyone just starts like laughing. And I'm like, but it's not even like a mess up thing. Like the tone is right, the score is right. Like why are we laughing?
yeah.
I'm not laughing. I was getting
I
pissed.
mean I've never watched it in theaters, so I don't know like which
The little
part.
trigger
But
things.
yeah.
That's just me. I just think everyone should be dead quiet in a movie theater. I don't even care if it's funny. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. If you want to
Don't go
laugh
to
and
movie
react,
theaters
and
then.
I'm a laugher and a reactor. Like whenever I watch movies with Marissa over the phone, like if it's something
Yeah.
we haven't seen or whatever, like I'll ask me like, "Can I talk during this, or are we gonna be serious?" And then
Hmm.
I'll put myself on mute because I have to talk. But if I'm in a
Yeah.
movie theater, silence, zippo, nothing. You ain't getting shit out of me. So everybody should take heed. The movie theater is not where we go to have fun. This is where we're serious.
Yeah. We don't go to movies. That's what we do. No, just kidding.
Nobody else but me should, I guess.
You should just rent out a movie theater for yourself.
That is the dream. I would love to do that.
Just for a whole day. Put all your favorite movies on there. You're good to go.
So next month we're gonna go see Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day. That's gonna be a good one. I love double features.
I like drive-in movie, like double feature drive-in. That's what I want to do this
PTSD,
summer.
Katrina. I'm heartbroken over drive-ins.
We'll get back to the movie now.
Anyway, let's talk about attempted murder.
Right. So we see Artie, he runs out of salt, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna need a lot of it.
They're seasoning
And
the food. I love it.
right, and when he comes back with the salt, he's on his little stool chair thing, and he's like, he puts some in, and then he looks at it, he's like, nah, put some more. And I'm like, yeah, just keep going. Like you just keep adding the salt because you're gonna need a lot. And then we see a POV of somebody like behind the shelf, watching him. And then it goes back to Artie, and then we see like a boy's hand grab the stool he's on and kind of like yank it.
Yeah, because
And
Artie's standing up on a stool so he can see over
this
the
tall
giant
ass
pot of
pot.
water to check
Yeah.
if it's boiling, to season it. Ben already, I think he was just like going on a break. I don't know if it was just
Yeah.
like a smoke break or he was doing something, but
Yeah. So then we see Artie, he falls forward a little bit and grabs a shelf that's like above the pot, and he's yelling like he's trying to be nice at first. He's like, "Oh, I'll get you whatever you want. Like it's fine. I'm sorry, da da da. Like, what do you need?" And then they pull the stool again, and then that's when he switches and it's like, "I'll fucking kill you, you bastard, blah, 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 you son of a bitch." And then finally, the stool comes all the way out. The giant pot of boiling water falls on him, and we see Artie screaming bloody murder, which I feel like his throat had to hurt after this, like from screaming this much.
well, maybe the steam lubricated it.
Stay hydrated, people. Like,
It's a really, really great practical effect shot. They used like the prosthetics, and they used some gelatin and like little air cannons. Like they had the actor who played Artie like raised a little bit so they could get like the air cannons like underneath, because you see like the blisters like bubbling and boiling because they were like
Mhm.
shooting air into it to make it like have texture and move. It's great. And I know that you've said this before, Katrina, that you like that Artie didn't die from this because he deserves
Yeah.
to live in pain.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the like the EMT was like, oh, we don't have that kind of medicine for the pain he's in right now. So he's gonna be in pain. I'm like, good. Leave him.
Yeah,
Because
I
who
think
knows how many children, how many years he's been there, how many children he's potentially abused in the past.
so. You mentioned that it was a boy's hand that's messing with
It
Artie's little stool that he's on, and
it
you're absolutely
yeah,
right. Do we can put this in the podcast or not, I don't care. Do we want to
yeah.
say like what's going on like as we're talking through it and like who's doing it?
Yeah, I mean we can. We can say that it was Angela.
It was
Yeah.
Angela.
But and I think on the thing somebody said, but it's actually like Jonathan's hand, like it's Ricky's, like for the shot, it's Ricky's hand, but it's Angela, the character, that is trying to kill Artie.
Yeah, I think what I've read is like they used a couple different men, like actors and crew, to
I
be
noticed
like
that.
the body, the silhouette, the close up like hand shots or something like that
It was
to
very confusing because we would pause and like one would have a freckle and then we'd pause on the next one. I'm like, now there's no freckle on his hand. Like, what? Because at
yeah.
first, watching this, we thought it was both Angela and Ricky working together.
Oh, you did?
Yes. So I was like, maybe they're taking turns. Maybe they're like teaming up to do it. Like maybe they have like a twisted connection. I don't know. And I'll later on in the movie, I'll point out which part made me think that.
Okay. The first time when I watched this, because I mean, I just watched this movie for the first time in quarantine.
Mhm.
I, you know, I think it was on Prime or something. They just, suggested stuff, and I was like, I ain't got shit to do today. Let me just watch. Like, I think I watched the first three like all at the same time. I don't remember, which is very not on brand for me. I don't remember like trying to actually figure out like who it was or what was going on. I think I was just like in this state where I was just watching it.
You were just watching it casually,
Yeah, I was
not
just like,
analytically.
yeah, very not me, but 2020, y'all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what we find out at the end is that Angela by herself has committed all of these murders.
Which
So
I don't think Ricky even suspected her. Like he never acted like he suspected it was her.
I don't think so either. But then there's a line later where Ricky's just kind of like casual about the whole thing, like he's not even worried
Mm-hmm.
that he might be next. So it just made me think like maybe he
Yeah.
knows. I think he knows. Leave that in there.
I'm gonna highlight it,
Cool
do some
beans.
editing on it.
Um, Mel is with the EMTs as Artie is being taken away, and he's only concerned about bad
Words are hard.
yeah.
I'm leaving that in too.
Mel's concerned about bad I'm done. Publicity. I spelled it right. Why can't I read it? Mel is concerned for bad publicity.
Woo!
I did it. So he just doesn't want the parents to hear that there has been an accident. He doesn't want to make the other kids worried. And this would track for a lot of the other incidents that occur. But
Right.
I think it's very plausible that in like a summer camp kitchen that's just kind of like forced to be industrial, that isn't actually a commercial kitchen, that there would be accidents. And the
Yeah.
way that this is played off is an accident.
Right.
So his big concern about the publicity. I don't think is as warranted as it will be later. But Mel promotes to be the head chef now and offers her an extra $50 a week to not talk about what has happened. And then he offers the rest of the kitchen crew a little bit more money as well.
Yeah, and because I'm weird, $50 a week then is like $157 a week now.
I definitely looked it up too.
Yeah, because I was like, I need to know.
So I mean, it's an extra $600 a month.
Yeah.
And who
I mean,
knows
but
when
only
you're
for
gonna
like
pay
2
taxes then.
months. Right.
Well, I mean, back then an extra $600, I mean, that was what, a year in your mortgage? I don't know.
Oh, but my title for that one, I couldn't come up with one, so I had 3 different ones. It was either cooked cook, boiled bastard, or well done wiener shower. I don't know where that came from. I'm probably not gonna leave that one in there.
Oh,
But
I thought, I mean,
shower, wiener
I thought-
shower. It's not shower.
I thought it was, well, it's a shower, like the water falls on him.
Well, I was doing it as like he's a well done wiener shower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Now
the way
that-
that I see it, I mean, I thought it was like a series of events. Like he was cooked, then he was boiled.
Well, I was trying to do like an alliteration. So it's like cook, boiled bastard. Anyway.
I liked it.
Okay,
Your next
going on.
your next scene title is a good alliteration.
Oh yeah. Boys baseball and bruised egos. And I would say that this scene is exorbitantly long for not having anything to do with the plot.
In some ways it does. This baseball scene between the younger boys and the older boys at camp, it sets up that they have, a war going on, and it has some wonderful dialogue. Is
Mhm.
it absolutely superfluous because it goes on for too long? Yes. But I enjoy it.
I thought it was fun. Like all the heckling and the back and forth and the names, like it was good.
Yeah,
And
this scene can be absolutely summed up in like 30 seconds, where it's the younger boys and the older boys are playing a baseball game, and they bet, I don't know if they are betting $5 per run that the winners make, or like $5 per like player or whatever.
Yeah.
But my favorite line of this movie, I have 2 favorite lines, and this is one of them, where the young boys are heckling Bill, who's batting, and he's one of the older boys, like the leader of that crew. He tells him to eat shit and die, Ricky. And then Ricky, just so coolly, he says, eat shit and live, Bill. I love it.
I did like that one. I will say that throughout this, I really love the short shorts and crop tops. Bring back more slutty shorts.
That's literally something that other people were laughing about too. Like, I'm like, this is literally just what they wore.
Yeah. And they should now, which I will say they are bringing back like the 5-inch inseam shorts, but it's not short enough.
Yeah, let's get craziness. Because the actor who plays the lead camp counselor, Ronnie, like is like an actual bodybuilder. So Marissa and I, we were watching this video when he goes into the kitchen to take Angela, and she's like commenting, he's like, wow, he's got really nice tits. I'm like, yeah, like he was like a legit dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just the thing. And this relates back to my complaint about people like laughing about stuff. It's like, just take in the fucking context. Like, have like a shred of media literacy. This movie came out in 1983, so it probably was recorded in 1982. That is different than how we are 40 years later. Like, just take it and go. If you can watch fucking Underworld, which I watched last night, and it's like Twilight meets the Matrix, and everyone's like, oh my god, like it's like so cool. It's like, you can handle a fucking crop top. Okay, let's go.
Crop top and some booty shorts, you're fine.
So Ricky and the younger boys are thrilled when they have beaten the older boys in their baseball game, and Bill basically announces that it's on Camp War. We see them next, some kind of social at the rec hall that evening. Most of the boys are there, the older boys. Judy's there talking to a couple boys. Mel comes in and sees Meg, who turns all of her attention directly to him, putting her back
Mhm.
to Gino, who is the younger boys' camp like bunk counselor. And I love his reaction. He and Meg are like looking at each other, talking, like leaning against like the little like snack bar thing. Mel walks in and Meg just turns right around, and Gino's just like, he just drops his
Defeated.
head. He's like, man, I lost to an 80-year-old man.
Who smells like cigars and fucking probably like baby powder.
Yeah. I'd like to make it clear that Meg has to be 18. I feel like all
Yeah.
the camp counselors are at least 18.
They're probably out of high school or college age, is my assumption.
Yeah, I think Ronnie looks like he could be old enough to be like out of college age, but he's still a young man. Susie and Meg look young. Gino is
Yeah.
young.
The
They're just,
lifeguard looks like he's probably like 25.
yeah, he looks like he's like an adult, but yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's young except for the kitchen staff, Mel, and then like the cop that we
Yeah.
haven't seen yet. Everyone else is pretty young. I love when, so let me set this up. There's the group of the older boys, and Bill comes back to the group to report that he can't find enough girls to want to go skinny dipping with all of them after the social. This boy, Kenny, I will call him Mullet Kenny, if I remember to call him that, says, well, what about Angela, who's just sitting there all by herself eating a candy bar? Which apparently that was the like audition for Angela, is like all the different actors just had to like pretend to eat a candy bar, and then the ones who looked the weirdest got it. And then the audition for the character of Ricky was the director just having a bunch of young boys, like, it's like, okay, shout as many profanities as you can. And Ricky won. Jonathan Tiersten won because
He
this,
did.
the mouths on these boys, like we haven't gone into it in as much detail, but they're like cursing up a storm all the time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like that comes with like being young and then having the freedom when you're at summer camp, so you just
Yeah.
say
Your
everything.
parents can't ground you here.
So Kenny
Yeah.
and Mike, that I didn't know Mike's name for a while, so I just put blonde boy in all my notes until I figured out
he's
what his
not-
name was.
He's not important enough.
Not important enough, but he's one of the older guys. He's in the crew. He and Kenny go over to Angela to try and sweet talk her a little bit to get her to say anything at all, so she can go like skinny dipping with them. And she just like stares. Angela still has not said anything this whole time. And then
Right.
one of my other favorite lines in this movie, when the boys like can't get anything out of Angela, he's like, "You Angela, how come you're so fucked up?" I'm like, I love it.
Also, don't ask people why they're fucked up. Come on now.
Yeah, don't ask me because I'll tell you.
Yeah, don't ask what you don't want to. Careful what you ask for. Well, and it's funny because like Ricky walks into the rec room with his big ass cowboy hat. I'm like, what is he planning to do with this? And I put in here, I was like, that did not fit in that bag that he had in the very beginning of this movie.
I know.
There's no way.
I mean, and it might be his, it might not be. And I mean, you know, like when you're young, like, I don't know, he could have literally just found it on the ground and it belongs to somebody. He's like, I'm gonna wear this for the rest of the night.
I will say that yesterday we were at the park and Yuri found some sunglasses, and nobody had been there for hours, and they were like some Oakley sunglasses, but they were the ugliest goddamn ones. We looked them up. They were almost $200.
Looks like you can sell them.
That's what I told her.
Finders
She's
keepers.
Like, I can wear them for fishing. I'm like, as long as you don't wear them in public around me, I don't care.
Yeah, there you go.
Because they're embarrassing. But
all these
love
boys,
the
little cowboy hat.
Yeah,
it's cute. They're just kids.
Yeah. All the older boys are kind of harassing Angela now, being like, just surrounding her really. And Ricky goes up and starts defending her, and they all get into a fight. And none of the counselors really try to break it up. Like, they're just like watching. One of them
comes
does.
in a little later and pulls Ricky off. Yeah. But yeah, everyone's just kind of watching. It's the first of many dog piles in this movie.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch The Kill Count, the Dead Meat channel on YouTube, or any of their podcasts?
Oh,
well, they're a great horror channel. And they do, the guy James does kill counts for lots of horror movies and stuff like that. So he'll like summarize it and talk about the kills along the way. And he was like, it's the first of boy piles. Because like they're teenage boys. They're like young boys. So like all they do is like just pile on each other. And that's it. But they spend a lot of time doing it in this movie.
Yeah. But after the fight kind of gets like broken up, Paul walks up to Angela and sits next to her and like I put it in here and I'm like, hi, I'm Paul, like the little alien thing.
No, and I like took me back to like Jimmy Neutron days.
He just talks to her. She's not responding in any way. And he just talks to her like she's a normal person. And Paul doesn't need anybody to respond to him because he just talks.
So he talks enough, honestly.
Yeah. So Judy is across the room and she's just jealous watching Angela get attention from a boy, which I don't understand. Like, she gets attention from all the boys, but she doesn't want to share any attention with anybody. I'm like, it's not even yours.
She's just a young girl.
Yeah.
We're all like that. I mean, she's absolutely a mean girl, but yeah, she doesn't like somebody that she doesn't like getting what she wants.
She's an only child for sure. Paul is leaving and he says goodnight. And as he's walking away, this is the first time Angela speaks and says goodnight. And like a little, like a sweet, soft, like voice. And he was like so excited. He's like, good night. And like leaves.
The next scene.
But this scene is called Douche Canoe.
I love it. I love it.
It's like all the boys are at the lake and they're trying to convince these girls to go skinny dipping. None of the girls want to do it. And so they all just are like, fine, we'll go without you. And so they all get naked and we see all these like pale butts running down the dock to like jump in the water. And we're just like, gay, gay, gay. Like, you're swimming naked with other men.
Like, and that part's like fine.
It is. But I'm like, I don't see a problem with it. But I'm like, you want to swim with all the girls, like, the girls don't want to skinny dip with you. So skinny dip with your bros. It works.
Yeah. And Katrina and I, we were texting like when we were doing stuff for this episode. And we were talking about how in our Midsummer episode, we were talking about how there needs to be more male nudity in horror movies to make it equal and everything. And then it just so happens that this movie had like a parade of boy butts just running across, and I was like, honestly, equality, let's do it.
Go for it. So all the boys have just gone into the water, and then there's others 2 boys, one of which is Kenny, the mullet man, right? Mullet Kenny, and his friend. I don't know his name, but he doesn't matter.
It's Mike again. Kenny we don't care about Mike.
Literally nobody likes Mike. Like Mike. Anyway, Kenny is coming up to the girls and is trying to get them to like go on a night canoe ride, and they're like, oh, maybe Leslie will go with you. And so we cut to Kenny and Leslie getting in the canoe.
They're snapping turtles and water snakes, and we got to be careful we don't get in the water. Meanwhile, he's literally rocking the boat, and then he ends up flipping it over, and Leslie just like tells him to fuck off, and then swims back to the shore, and the girls like get her out, and then they call all the boys a bunch of jerks, and then they leave. Kenny he like swims underneath the canoe and like is pretending like Leslie is still there. Maybe he doesn't know that like she actually swam all the way back, and he's just making a bunch of noise like to be a little bit scary underneath like the echo of the canoe. And then we see somebody who has dark hair like pop up from underneath the water, and Kenny's just like, what are you doing here? And then he's drowned, and we know that that's Angela killing him. Good for her. But I'm looking at the Sleepaway Camp wiki from looking up who played Leslie, and it has like her like plot deal in this, says that she went to the shoreline, she went on the canoe ride, and then she swam back to shore. But then it says late the next day, and Leslie knew Kenny drowned and regretted being harsh on him and leaving him alone in the water. Later on, she knew Angela was the one who killed him after she was informed by other campers and counselors when there was murder around the camp.
I don't ever remember seeing Leslie again.
I don't remember seeing Leslie ever again. And then nobody knew that it was Angela until like the last frame of the movie. So I don't know how anyone would have found out beyond like, like the sequel time frame. I don't know. And I don't remember Leslie being in the sequels
No, I've
or
never
her
seen
character
sequels.
even.
Yeah. That's the
So-
only thing I remember of Leslie's is canoe flip.
Yeah, I think that that's pretty much it. So I don't know
Yeah.
what the wiki lore is doing. So the rest of the boys are waiting for Kenny to like come back to shore, and then they're just like waiting a long time, and then they're like, fuck it, he'll be fine. They trash the beach. They're like throwing chairs and messing stuff up because they're teenage boys and they suck. And then it's the next day, the lifeguard, he's pissed off that the beach is ruined. He has to clean it all up, and then he's like tripping over stuff in the water. And then it's a funny delivery of a line, but then he's like, how in the world did that get there? And he sees like the canoe like tipped over like in the shallow water, and he's pissed. But then he flips the canoe back over, and we see Kenny's dead body. And it was a life cast that's really cool looking. And then it's got like one of the water snakes like slithering out of his mouth over his eyes. It's a really, really great practical effect. But
Yeah.
and everyone laughs at it. And I'm like, why are we laughing at this? Like, it's very well done.
I can see that, and it looks like either snapping turtles or something have taken like little bites out of him. And the first time I watched it, I was like, "There's no way he'd be that gross." But then I thought about it, and I'm like, the snakes, the snapping turtles, like that's the karma of it, a little bit. When all the boys were leaving from the lake at the night before, I really connected with one of them. He made a pun. He's like, "Is this what it means by getting caught with your pants down?" And they like shoved him into the lake because they're like, shut up. And I'm like, every time I make a joke, that's what my friends do. They don't appreciate me.
We have a pretty quick scene of the EMTs taking away a body bag. Mel is trying to get the cop to say that, oh, there was an accident and he probably hit his head and he drowned. Like, he's just refusing the possibility of any foul play going on because he's concerned about the reputation of the camp and him. And the cop is just like, well, we won't know anything until the autopsy. And they're kind of volleying back and forth about cause of death and what happened. And Ronnie's just really concerned about everybody. Yeah. But Mel just says, well, I have the unfortunate task of informing the parents.
Which part of me was like, wouldn't the cops? But I guess if it's like his responsibility, then maybe. But I was like, I'd rather just be like, can you do it for me? I can't imagine having to do that.
I think, if Mel takes on and chooses the responsibility of being able to do it, and maybe, it's stuff like this and things that happen that seem so willy-nilly to us that to me, it makes a lot of sense for the time period. Like, I'm sure that because of accidents and things like this, I'm not saying that there's like murders and stuff going on at every summer camp, but there are injuries and accidental death and dismemberment. Like,
You've
we
got to
have
report
all these things that's why we now have all these like liability waivers and stuff like that. Like, something happens and then the camp is going to have to protect itself in the future and things like that. So I'm just like, context clues, people.
The next scene, we have the girls playing volleyball. And I thought you raised your hand or something.
I did. I was going to say if we should say anything about the cop and his mustache in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. It looks real. Okay. So I would say the cop in this scene, the mustache looks fine.
I think it's real. It is his real mustache.
It looks real, but like as the movie progresses, it's like for continuity, they're like, somebody shaved and put a fake one on him later.
Well, because what happened, I'll just spoil it. Towards the end, when there's more murders, the police officer comes back and his mustache looks way different. It's because this scene was done during reshoots and the actor had shaved for a different role that he was doing. So they just did a really bad job of replacing it.
Which is like, people shave. They could have just let him stay shaved.
They didn't want to do that.
They said, for continuity.
For continuity, now you get a flat mustache instead of one that was like truly glorious.
And it's like crooked and not even centered. And
yeah.
They're like, it's only for 30 seconds.
Yeah, they're like, it's fine. So that's just like an aside of information. I feel like if we didn't say anything about the mustache in this episode, people would be like, you didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's in there.
You're
Get off
welcome.
our dicks.
The next scene, all the girls are playing volleyball, and Judy, being Judy, is wearing a shirt that says Judy because she's self-centered and that's who she is. Angela is just sitting and watching because she doesn't really participate or like connect with any of the other girls. And Paul walks up, sits with her and is talking. And so obviously Judy gets jealous, tells Meg, and Meg is always going to take Judy's side in this movie.
Yeah, she says that Judy says it's not fair that Angela doesn't have to play volleyball and she just gets to talk to boys all day. So Meg is like, well, that's certainly not fair. And Meg is not subtle about anything. Meg is direct. MEG. She is right there because she just goes right up and she's like, Angela, if you're not going to participate, then you can't talk to boys. You can't do anything. You just sit there and be quiet. Fucking bitch.
Susie, though, does defend her. She's like, she's just talking to a boy. Like, we all do it. But Paul leaves. Why are you gonna be such a bitch, Meg?
Truly. Paul's just excited that he has a date to the movie that night, so he got what he wanted. He can go.
Oh, yeah. But after the movie, Paul and Angela are holding hands, and he's like, can I walk you back to your cabin? We also see Ricky try to talk to Judy, but she shoots Ricky down, and she wants to be wanted, but she doesn't actually want Ricky. She wants older boys.
Yeah, so she follows Paul and Angela back to the cabin, but she's a little bit behind them. Paul takes Angela around the side of the cabin, and he's like, there's something I want to show you. And then he just turns around and kisses her. Like, it's the most unromantic kiss. Like, it's just like lips touching. I would hardly call it a kiss, even.
Right. Angela's lips never moved.
Yeah, it's just
she was just like, he kind of kissed her, but she was like, okay. And then he immediately was like, oh my God, don't be mad. Like, he's like, I'm sorry, like, can I, and then kisses her again. And it was the exact same as the first one. But I mean, like, they're little, so it's just like, they're nervous, they're scared. Like,
I think it plays off just like that. Like, that's
yeah,
what you're meant to assume. So Angela's just like, okay, good night.
Yeah,
and she goes inside the bunk. Awkward. And then Judy comes up and is trying to sway Paul that Angela, won't be enough for him. And then he just walks away. Like, it's very awkward, but I feel like it works in the context of it being little kids.
Yeah.
So
go
ahead.
We go over to Ricky's cabin where they're pranking Mozart again. This time they are putting shaving cream in his hand, and
they're just torturing this boy the whole summer. They make him go face first into a butt in the beginning before the baseball game. Now they're putting shaving cream on his face. Like, honestly, like, when Mozart pulled out his knife and started running around, I was like, I get it.
He was bound to stab. Yeah. And Gino comes in, takes the knife away. He's like, are you guys crazy? And, like, quote unquote, hides it in his butt. Like, he just puts it, like, on his shelf when all of them are watching. Like, those boys are not stupid. So that's also a little bit why I thought it was Ricky. Because how did Angela know where that knife was? That's what I want to know. Anyway.
It's very valid because that knife ends up being used to off a few people. So, yeah, how did Angela know about it? Especially if Ricky wasn't involved with the murders. But it's not canon that Ricky was. So, it's plausible. It's plausible. Ricky and Angela just talked, and Ricky was just like, oh my God, this happened, and then Mozart pulled a knife on me, and Gino just took it and kept it in his stuff. Like,
and it could have also been Paul, because I mean, they called him lover boy or whatever, so he was there. So so either Ricky or Paul could have talked about it.
Yeah, Paul comes back into the cabin, and he's like got heart eyes like floating around his head. And the younger boys, they do another dog pile. They all just like jump on him because they're like, oh, you're in love.
Yeah.
Next scene, good name.
Oh.
This scene is called Tattletit because that's what Judy does. A bunch of the kids are up at the beach, and Angela, who isn't swimming, I thought she was afraid of water. Angela is sitting watching everybody kind of swim at the beach, and Paul comes up behind her and does like the whole guess who, and she plays along, so it was cute. It was nice. So yet again, jealous Judy tattles to Meg, and then Paul leaves before Meg even like arrives over there. And then Meg just starts antagonizing Angela like about swimming and just like screaming in her face, getting so angry and
Yeah,
just shaking her.
Yeah, she starts like shaking her, like, why won't you answer me? Ronnie runs over and he's like, Angela, what? Or he's like talking to Meg, he's yelling, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is a kid. And Ronnie punishes Meg, like sends her to the office because he's gonna mess with her. And then Ronnie, he's so nice. He's like, Angela, are you okay? And Angela doesn't
Yeah.
speak. She has only talked to Paul, doesn't say anything to Judy or Meg, nothing. And Ronnie's just being really nice to her. Then we skip to a little bit later in the cabin. Judy's coming out of the bathroom. She's just had a shower. She's like drying off her hair and stuff like that. And then she sees Angela just sitting there and announces to the cabin that they should all thank Angela for getting Meg in big trouble. But then Angela says, I didn't do anything. So that's the first time she's spoken to like the main group of girls. She talked to Susie
Right.
for like a second when she just said that she was fine to watch the stuff. But that was like the first time she and Judy have spoken to each other.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know why, but like Judy's pillow just made it like throwback vibes.
yeah, because I have like
But
the flowery print like on the actual pillow.
yeah. And so Judy's like, why doesn't Angela shower when the rest of us shower? You queer or something?
Well, and that's a
Is she
really
wrong?
it's a great call out because it just comes off as Judy being a bully. Like I don't know if it's before or after dinner. But like all these girls are like, you know, doing their shower routine and everything.
Right.
Um, and Susie's just like, Angela can shower in the morning if she wants to. So, I mean, Angela is showering. So it's not like
Right.
there's a hygiene thing. And I know that that can happen at camp sometimes. But Judy is just fucking off her rocker. And this is my number one favorite line in this whole movie. But she's just going in on Angela about how she's different. And then she was saying, like, oh, like, are you not showering because you haven't hit puberty yet? You don't want anyone to know that you don't have any hair down there, which is a very interesting cultural difference between where they were then, like, pro Bush to like now
Yeah.
no Bush. But then she says, and I love it, she says that Angela is a real carpenter's dream, flat as a board and needs a screw. And Susie's like, we're done. Judy tells Susie to fuck off. Then Susie slaps her in the face. And then she's just like, ooh, yikes, I hit a kid.
Yeah.
That was bad. But I was
Yeah,
like,
even for Susie, that was surprising.
but she deserved it. I mean, I love
Yeah.
Judy. I love a bad girl, but like, she deserved to get hit. Talk shit, get hit.
If you can't, like, that's my main thing. If you can't take it, don't dish it. Like, if you're gonna talk shit, expect for it to come back at you.
Absolutely. So Susie's kind of stunned that she did that. Judy runs away to the bathroom, and then Angela, in like this awkward moment, she's like, I'm gonna go on a walk.
Yeah.
So then she leaves. We see the older boys outside on some cabin. They're on the roof throwing water
Yeah.
balloons at each other, which isn't safe, but whatever. They
No
see
other place
Angela.
to do it.
Sure. Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense. The boys see Angela walking down the little road. Then they throw water balloons at her, and it kind of like knocks her down. Paul sees it, runs over to Angela to like help her. Ricky like comes up a couple seconds later out of his cabin, but then he can deduce what has happened. Then he runs up to the other cabin where the older boys are and just starts like cursing at them, like, fuck you,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like kill you and your mom. And
Yeah.
just goes off on them.
I'm saying it makes him come off as like really aggressive. So when you're watching this the first time, you're like, damn, he's mad. Like he's popping off for like everything.
Mel comes over and gets Ricky to calm down, yells at the other boys to come down off the roof, and says that he saw the whole thing and that the boys could have really hurt Angela, and then says that they don't get any canteen time for a week, which I think that's like their rec center or whatever.
Maybe like snacks or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then he says that Ricky is also being punished because of his mouth, but Ricky's just pissed because everyone keeps bullying his cousin and nobody's stopping it. Mel does ask Angela, like, are you okay? And she's just like sitting there. Paul says that she's fine. And I love Mel for this. And he's like, well, you better go change before you catch pneumonia. It's almost time to eat. Like, he's so not engaged, but like kind of is. So it's just a funny.
It's also one of those like cliche, like where adults are so extra with their like, you could have taken an eye out, you know, you're gonna catch pneumonia. I'm like, that's not gonna happen. You're lying.
My thought for this whole thing, kind of an aside, kind of not. I feel like this is like maybe I mean, like in the Poconos, like this is like a northeastern kind of town. Like it looks like people are like Jewish, Italian, like it seems like that's like the area and like the foliage of what it looks like. This isn't like a beach, it's like a big lake.
Which I tried to look it up and it said it was in New York is where it was
set or filmed.
Yes. Yeah, filmed in New York. And so I'm wondering, and the accents, I feel like they track with New York. So I don't know.
Well, and
but I would agree
for Mel to be like, you know, change before you catch pneumonia, to where like where they physically are, being in the Northeast, it's not like a hot southern summer or anything like that. Right. So like, while I don't think pneumonia is the biggest threat to them, it's still something that, like, you know, if you're all wet, it does get colder at night. So yeah, like I'm just saying that because I think that Mel means it kindly.
Yeah,
even though he's, you know, an oaf.
He's being a bit dramatic, but so the older boys are getting ready to go play baseball again, and they ask Bill if he's coming, and Bill says, I'll be right over. I got to take a wicked dump, which is probably exactly something that a boy that age would say.
My brother still says that. So I'm like, yeah, for sure.
Bill goes into the bathroom. He takes his magazine, and it's like a stall type bathroom. We see somebody like lock the door by putting either like a broom handle or a stick through the door handle so that it can't open out. And then once we see Bill in the bathroom, a knife and a hand, somebody takes Mozart's knife and is cutting an X in the screen, which doesn't really startle Bill yet until a stick with a beehive on it comes in and starts getting shaked around. And Bill's like banging on the door, trying to get out, screaming. And he doesn't. He ends up dying, which part of me is like, Bill is a really athletic guy. He could either A, jump over, or B, go under. But I'm like, maybe in the moment he was so panicked that his brain just like couldn't think of what to do to get out.
I mean, the stick was kind of thick that they locked him in with, but I feel like he could have broken it. I think that this was an avoidable death, but the death happened. So Bill is dead, death by a beehive. And then we skip over to Mel and Ronnie in Mel's office. Mel is lamenting that he's finished. His days are done. And then he asks Ronnie how many kids are left, because I guess a bunch of other kids, with everything going on, they've chosen to leave, or their parents have dragged them out and be like, I'm killing my kid today.
Right.
So Ronnie says that there are only 25 kids left, and he will consolidate all of the bunks tomorrow because they don't need all of the bunks and everything if they can just keep everyone together, and it'll be safer. And Mel kind of gets a weary look in his eyes, and he's like, I know who it is.
And but he also mentions like, make it easier for the kid. Like, that makes it harder. What?
Well, he's saying like makes it easier for the killer if everybody's all in one spot.
Right. Safety in numbers.
Yes. So then we're going to, I assume it's that evening, and it's a POV shot of somebody in the woods looking at Angela, who is like on the side of the cabin. She's like peering around both corners, like she looks like she's nervous. And then we just see a male hand reach out for her and go over her shoulder. And then she just flips around real quick, and then it's just Paul.
Yeah. She was like, I thought you were the killer. Like it scared her. And I'm like,
Well, and that's the thing. I feel like that's a really good fake out from the creator to be like, oh, well, you wouldn't imagine that it's Angela if we've seen that she's scared too.
You know what they say? Smelt it, dealt it.
I thought you were the killer.
No, but it does put some doubt in the back of your head. And part of me was like, I'm not worried about Angela being murdered because the person doing the murdering is protecting or like getting vengeance for Angela, basically.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a really good time to comment on it. At least for me, like I knew when I was watching that everybody is being mean to Angela, give or take, in one way or another. But then everyone's dying. So like absolutely. It's everybody who is mean to Angela dies. So it's like, duh, of course it's Angela.
Right.
But this movie is really good that everybody kind of has relationships with each other. So it's a really good fake out. I mean, and like I said before, like I wasn't super paying attention and trying to solve the mystery the first time I watched it. But Bill has his conflicts with Ricky, and Judy is still talking to Bill, and like Mike and the other boys and stuff. And Meg and Mel have their own little deal. Ronnie is involved with everybody as the camp counselor. Angela has her relationships with everybody. So it's a really good fake out.
Yeah.
Because everybody is involved with each other.
And because we're being told, you know, something's wrong with Angela, right? Throughout this whole movie. And part of me was the second time through is like, I wonder if she snaps and blacks out and maybe she doesn't remember what she's done. Because she seems semi-sincere, being scared and being like, oh my God, I thought you were the killer, but maybe she's a good actor. There's the potential that she snaps and blacks out and then goes, oh shit.
I think of her action at the very, very end. You could say that she's just acting, but you never know because it's a trauma response, like her not talking.
Right.
I don't think that that's an act. I do not believe that Angela went to this camp with the intention of having a bad time, of needing to do this. I think that this was a trauma response. Extreme.
Right.
Cinematic, it's a movie. But if we're going to boil it down, I don't think that it was intended from the beginning. That she was just crazy and then went off. I think it was, well, something happened to me and there was all this abuse to me after the fact. You are hurting me. Now I'm going to get you.
Yeah. And I don't think, like, Aunt Martha is obviously abusive and delusional, but I don't think she would have put these other children in harm's way if she had done.
I agree.
But Paul and Angela go to make out on the beach and she like trips him and they're playing and it's cute. And then they finally like lay on the beach together and Paul's trying to like touch her chest, but she keeps telling him like, no, thank you. And then she ends up having a flashback to her dad and his lover in bed together. And then the kids are at the door like snickering, like, oh my God, haha. Like, you know, when your parents kiss, you're like, ew, oh my God. I can't relate, but you know what I mean? Like your parents showing affection. It's weird. We see the siblings sitting on the bed and like one of them's like pointing at each other.
Yeah, young Peter is just pointing at young Angela and the camera like swirls around them. It's an interesting shot. I haven't heard anyone in particular give an exact reason or the mentality behind this. I think that there's a lot of different ways you can go with it if you're just making up reasons. So
Yeah.
we go from the two little kids seeing John and the lover, like, I don't even remember if they kissed, but they're just like laying in bed, like cuddling,
They're
like
like
being
cuddling.
romantic.
Yeah.
And then we go to like the other little kids. So I think that there's one argument about they're little kids, like they're little. They don't know like the physicalities of stuff. And I think that this is one argument for like when girls and boys are so young, they don't understand much of the differences between boys and girls. Other than like the very, very superficial level. So I think that there's like a curiosity that comes, and I assume that they're like twins, basically.
Yeah, they looked like they were the same age. And part of me was wondering, because if it's Peter pointing at Angela, maybe, okay, so in the moment, Peter, who is like making out with Paul right now, is flashing back to being like, oh, I'm Angela. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's
There's a
having
lot of
like
different
a
things. So
identity crisis at that moment. Like he doesn't know who he is, or like Angela doesn't know who she is and is like confused of like what is happening.
yeah, am I a girl kissing a boy, or am I who I actually am as a boy kissing a boy? But I've already seen
Right.
that it's okay that boys kiss boys.
Right. Boys kissing boys is fine. But do I like boys because I am being a girl, or do I like boys because I like boys?
Well, and there's also, this might be a little bit of a twisted thought in my mind, but when it's like the shot of little Peter and Angela in the bed, like just staring at each other, and then Peter points at her and Angela is just like sitting there, like they don't do anything. It's just like the camera swirling around them doing it. My mind kind of went to the fact that the Peter pointing just the one finger, it's a little phallic in imagery. I don't have anything like further than that because I don't.
Could it have been a flowers in the attic moment? Is what you're kind of
Maybe. I mean, I don't know that Peter and Angela like experimented with each other or anything like that, if that's what you're referring to. But just like Peter pointing, he's the only one with like a finger out that's phallic in nature, and Angela not, is that there's nothing to stick out. I don't
know. It's really confusing because they don't ever expand on that.
Like there's nothing. It's just like Angela and Peter are kissing, or Angela and Paul are kissing on the beach, and then real Angela and Peter are just in the bed after they've watched their dad like be romantic and intimate with another man. So I think that every thought process is correct because there's no comparison or callback of it. It's just it's a weird, dreamy scene that it's just very unsettling. And if that was just the point, that's fine. But I haven't heard of like any actual reason for it. But then when Angela kind of like comes back, like present day Angela, she like throws Paul off of her and runs away. Like she does not want to have any kind of physicality with Paul.
Yeah, and good for her for being able to, recognize like, I don't want this. I'm just gonna physically leave.
Yeah, for whatever reason, whether it was fear, trauma, lack of desire, for any reason, if you don't want to, don't do it.
Leave.
And I would also, on the side of that, if you don't want to, don't do it. But like if you don't want it, don't do it.
So this next scene is all the kids are.
I'm just excited about it. No, I'm just excited. I like lifted my hands
Rachel,
up. I'm like, yeah.
Rachel loves capture the flag, apparently.
Well,
I know. I
like this scene. I like the game of capture the flag. I think because it's a physical game that just requires a lot of strategy as much as skill. Like I can't throw like a football, I can't play basketball like super well, but like capture the flag is fun because then you get to like conspire. You're good.
Thank you.
Words are hard for me today. But you get to like conspire with your friends or your team and like figure out like your plan. Like I like that aspect of it. So like capture the flag is a fun game. for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it was one of like the movie things that's like, man, so it's Gino. I don't know the name of this other counselor. I think it might is like Jeff or something. I don't know.
Sounds like somebody that would be named Jeff back then. Yeah.
I don't know. Two of the counselors, they've got the blue team and the white team. And they're explaining every single rule of capture the flag. Like they didn't do like the movie thing where it's just like we're gonna play capture the flag and like cut to it. Like they tell you every single thing you need to know.
Yeah.
And while Jeff is talking at first, Gino like takes like the big flagpole and like puts it like behind his head and makes it look like he's trying to eat it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny. This movie does what kids do.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I'm endeared to it. I can't remember if Paul and Angela are on the same team or not, but I know Ricky and Angela are.
Right. I don't know about their team. I don't know what Paul's team was.
I remember looking at it and being like, oh, I need to remember whose team they're on, but I don't, and I didn't write it down. So my fault.
I don't think it matters whose team he's on.
No. But Paul goes up to Angela, and kind of apologizes for the night before. And Angela just says that she wasn't ready, and Paul's like, it's fine, but like it's not fine.
Right.
And then Angela just walks away. And then Judy comes up to Paul to just goad him again. But Angela's walked off. Ricky catches up with Angela and tells her about the great strategy he's come up with where they can like sneak into the woods behind the other team's flag and then like get him from behind and like distract him and blah, blah, blah. Angela doesn't want to play, but then Ricky does the smart thing. He's like, but if we play and we win, then you don't have to play at all anymore. And she's like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Very kid.
If it'll bring this to the end, I'll do it. Ricky convinces Angela, let's cut through the woods. So they kind of split ways because Angela is supposed to be bait to like go in front of Ricky to get caught so that Ricky can actually capture the flag. And Angela comes across Judy and Paul kissing in the woods. I don't even know if Angela said anything. She just like runs off.
Yeah, she runs off.
Sees it and runs off.
Ricky saw it from the other side. And Paul, I think, goes after Angela. Ricky calls Judy like a scumbag.
Yeah.
And Judy,
she's like, same to you.
Yeah, but she doesn't like that Ricky just flips her off and like keeps going with like the game stuff. So Judy's pissed that like people are mad at her for being a bitch, but maybe she's a bitch.
Right.
And then the next scene, we're back at the beach. Angela's just sitting there again. Paul comes up and apologizes to her and says that Judy just wouldn't leave him alone. And he didn't really want to do it, but it just kind of happened. Then Judy comes around and she's like, oh, you guys are back together so soon. I'm surprised, Angela, since Paul was just saying what a prude you are. Paul's like mortified. Angela's pissed. MEG has to walk up, and Meg and Judy are trying to get Angela in the water, and Angela just won't do anything. And this is a really good scene. Like, this is what I was referring to earlier. So Ricky just is like coming up to the beach. Mel has it in his head that he thinks Ricky is the killer. Right. So he intercepts Ricky and he's just like trying to talk to him. He's like, oh, like, how's your summer? How's it going? And Ricky's just kind of looking around. He's like, it's fine, I guess. Like, not really like a mention of the murder specific, but then Mel's like, it's a shame all those kids had to go home. And Ricky's like, yeah, it's kind of hard to get a ball game going. So this is where I'm saying it's like Ricky is not concerned for like his own life or anything. No.
He's like, but baseball.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where Mel thinks he is nonchalant because Ricky's must be the murderer, because Ricky has been involved with like the boys, the older ones, you know, and like their little war. So Kenny and Bill are dead. So he saw Ricky and Angela running off when Artie was injured. So
he's always been
present.
Around.
Who else has died?
Angela is so
I think it's just them.
3.
Okay.
But Angela is so like, I was gonna say soft spoken, but non-spoken, really.
She's just like a non-thing, kind of.
But Ricky comes off as abrasive and aggressive with, you know, cussing people out. So Mel, oh, a girl couldn't do that. You know, that I think that's kind of his thinking.
Meg throws Angela over her shoulder because she says that she's gonna go swimming. And Ricky sees this, but Mel like grabs him and starts threatening him, saying, like, I know it was you. You are the murderer, and won't let Ricky go help Angela.
Right.
And Judy tosses Angela in.
Meg throws her in.
Is that what I said? Did I say Judy?
Yeah.
Meg throws Angela in. Judy's just laughing the whole way. It's been said that Angela can't swim and probably hasn't gone into the water after her whole family died. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then Ronnie comes up, breaks up Mel and Ricky. Ricky runs over to Angela. Ronnie is like, Mel, what the fuck is wrong with you? But he's deluded. He's absolutely convinced Ricky's the killer. The lifeguard and Ricky pull Angela out of the water. And then these little kids are throwing sand at Angela because she's like a camp pariah. So like everyone's being mean to her.
I will say the first time watching it, I didn't notice those kids at all until I was watching it the second time and I saw your
didn't either.
notes.
I mean, truly, I didn't.
I was like, it was very, very small. Like in the screen itself was small and like not obvious by any means. So later on I was confused, but it makes sense now.
Yeah. So Ricky gets Angela. Go ahead.
I say, after this, I was really upset because I was like, Meg should be fired. Meg should be like, they should be pressing charges and they should fire her. But obviously, Mel is not going to fire Meg. And it's just.
The lifeguard calls Meg a peckerhead, which is like his insult because he was talking about the peckerheads who ruined the beach earlier when he had to clean it up after the boys. And Judy and Meg like kind of make a look at each other like that people don't like them for how they act, but then they're like cool with each other being horrible. And Ricky says that he won't let them get away with it. So that's another like little thing. So this is a good scene title. There's a little counselor meeting and Ronnie says that Meg and somebody else, I don't remember, have the night off. So Meg goes up to Mel and says that she wants to do like dinner together, like the dinner he promised her. And Mel's like, yeah, like 9:30, which is very late to be eating. And I'm old for saying that.
No,
I don't, well, they're probably not eating dinner.
Yeah, they're probably having like a second dinner. Not a lot of calories in that. One
of the funny things I think is because Meg like instigated the whole thing with Mel. And she says like she's gonna go freshen up and she'll see him later. And then she walks away and Mel just kind of gives a look and he's like, like I pulled that. Good for me.
Because Megan is not ugly.
No, she's really beautiful.
She is. On the outside. Inside very ugly, but
the outside
Mel does not care about that.
Yeah.
So Meg makes the plans and then she like skips off. She goes to go shower and all the girls are in line for the shower. She goes, I suppose none of you will let me cut you. No, because you're a cunt. Like, you don't get to cut anybody.
Well, she just get cut.
So she goes next door and showers in that cabin. And I
beg the question, because they're assuming that there's 3 or 4 showers in use in that cabin, and then there were like 3 girls waiting. If she announced that she was going to go next door to shower in the other cabin, why didn't anyone go with her? I would have been like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot waiting in this line. Why don't I just go over there?
Absolutely.
So, plot.
Well, and not only that, but when we see her in the shower, she has like a soap in her hand, but there are no suds. Like, there are no bubbles or suds anywhere on her body the entire time, and it drove me crazy.
I would say that is an 80s product because different like lathering agents have been added since the 80s into our soaps.
Okay. I'll
context clues,
people. I don't like it. But she's showering and then
we don't see her boobs, right? Like when she's showering, like she has like her arms at her side. So I feel like this movie is like pretty like
PG-13. Yeah.
Like it's not there's gratuitous.
It wasn't unnecessary,
but not
shot.
Not boobs. There aren't any boobs, are there?
No,
Like,
I didn't see any.
we see like some nipple, but I think that that's just because like the bra life was different then and now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Meg, she's just like having a good time. She's gonna have a party with herself that night. Like she's having a happy shower, and then she just gets stabbed through the shower in the back.
With Mozart's knife again. And it gets like drug down like a slice. Like, and it goes back between like the knife coming down and like her going, ugh, you know.
Yeah, and this is where I'm like, it's poor editing. It's like somebody was like, they were filming Meg, and they're like, okay, act like you're dying, and then they just like cut back and forth. She's like, ugh. Like one or two
Yeah.
of them would have been okay, but it keeps going.
Yeah.
But it's fine. So
And
she's dead.
and we see the hand like rinsing off the blade.
MEG is DED. Dead. I love it.
And we see the knife get rinsed off in the shower and turn off the water. And this is where Yuri and I were like pausing to look at the hand. And I'm like, this is not tracking. So the hands were really confusing.
I will say,
and
not all the
then-
blood got rinsed off that knife, and I was like, what was that point? There is like a big social or something that night that everyone's going to. So Meg was gonna skip that because she wasn't on duty. Judy doesn't want to go, so she stays
Yeah.
in the cabin. And one of the counselors, I don't know his name, but we've seen him before. His task that night is to take a handful of little boys out in the woods to like camp under the stars.
Mhm.
So the camping counselor is getting like the little boys set up. He does not want to be there. He does not want to be outside. He's sleeping in his jeans. I hate that.
Well, and he also like one of the boys like brought an axe along and he's like, give me that. What are you doing? And like he makes a big deal, like confiscates the axe.
Paul has asked Angela for forgiveness after dinner, and she says to meet him at the waterfront after the social. And then we've cut to the campers, the little ones who a couple of them wake up and say that they're cold. They want to go back, and this is another reason why I think this is the Northeast, because it gets colder at night for camp. And they convince the counselor to take them back to like their actual cabins, and then we have a POV shot of somebody looking at the other boys who are still in their sleeping bags, and then they pick up the axe.
Yeah, and at that social, we see Mel come in. He's all dressed to the nines in his nice clothes, looking for Meg. So Mel asks some of the counselors, like, where is Meg? And they said that the last time they saw her, she was going to the showers. So Mel heads to her cabin to go look for her. And in the cabin, we see Judy, who is giving out on the social with Mike, who we don't care about, right? Is that his name? Yeah, the blonde guy. And they're kissing on her bunk, and she goes, you kiss so wet, and like wipes her mouth. And she's like just annoyed. So Judy and Mike hear something outside, and Mike hides under Judy's bed. Mel comes in without even knocking and asks her what she's doing, and she says she's reading. He asks, have you seen Meg? And she tells him that, oh, she went to go shower in the cabin next door. And as he's leaving, he's like, you'll ruin your eyes reading in the dark, which is one of those things that old people say as an exaggeration.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things too, where it's like, he's like, don't catch pneumonia, don't read in the dark. Like he's saying kind of nice things. Like in this particular scene, if we didn't know that like he was like looking for a Meg, like he seems nice.
So Mel leaves and Mike gets up and he's like, I'm just gonna go because he's worried that he might come back. And Judy's pissed off. She's like, he's not gonna come back. Like he just wants to go. Like Judy was mean to him. He was like looking for an out. So she gets mad and just decides she's gonna curl her hair. We go back to Mel going into the other cabin to find or to go look for Meg. And when he walks into the bathroom, her body like falls out of the shower onto the ground. And a few things, like the timing was great that he walked in when her body fell. Because I don't know how long she was standing up against that wall or what the timing of all this was really. He just goes into this monologue of like, not you, Meg. I'm gonna get him. I promise you I'll get him. Like the sadness isn't even there. It's just anger. And he just is talking to a dead body.
It's just a performance.
Yeah.
It's just
he's
a
like-
performance. And then he's on the hunt. So then we cut back to Judy curling her hair in bed. Like she's keeping all of the lights off. Do they knock or do they just open the door? Can't remember.
I think it's just, I don't know, but we only just see, like,
Either way,
person
the
in
cabin
the
door
doorway.
opens and it's just a body in a silhouette. And Judy's like, "Who is that?" And this is the actual production error that has been said, like how you were talking about when you watch it on your TV versus your computer
Yeah.
and stuff like that, like the different lighting. So they used Ricky as like a stand-in for this body, but because of like high def and the way that our screen resolutions are and everything, like even though it's a silhouette kind of behind him, kind of on the side, you can just absolutely see Ricky's face.
Yes.
So, and then that kind of plays a little bit funny to have Judy being like, "Who is that? Like,
Yeah.
why are you just standing there?" And then she's like, "Well, if you're gonna get in here, like just get in here and don't turn the lights on so we don't have to go to this stupid social." And she's curling like this tiny little piece of hair like by her ear. And then when she takes out the curling iron, the hair isn't even curled. So I'm like, boo. And then the body gets a little bit closer to Judy, and then she's like, "Oh, it's you. What do you want?" And then she just gets punched in the face, which I love.
Just shut up. Like,
Yeah, it was lights out. And then a pillow
Yeah.
goes on her face. And then this is a very iconic scene. And people laugh at this too. And I stop. So it's just like the shadows on the wall where we see like the curling iron get lifted, like the little clamp opens. And then we just see like a movement of it down. And then Judy is screaming through the pillow and then like raises her hand like a claw little thing. So apparently what has happened is Angela has stuck the curling iron up Judy's hoo-ha and
That's
like
kind of what I got from that.
burns her. So the first time I saw it, I thought like maybe she was putting it down her throat.
But
like
the pillow was over her face the whole time.
The pillow was over her face
Yeah.
like at first, but then like it could have gone down her throat because Judy talks a lot. Because here's the thing, like the curling iron did not kill Judy.
No.
I think that she was like smothered because the pillow was over her face. And then Angela was just like, "Fuck you, bitch." Because it is canon that the curling iron like goes up her vagina, like to burn her. But I'm like, that's just a burn. Like it would suck. But like it's just a burn. Like that's not gonna kill her. So this is a very famous scene and everyone like goes crazy over it. And like it's intense and like the kill technically is done off screen, like, and it's shot well, but like for me, I don't know, like it just doesn't like hit. Because even after I learned like it was supposed to be like the vagina, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like that's not gonna kill her. Why are people saying she died by a curling iron? That's just a burn. Like I think I just have autism.
But after all that, they hide the body, or Angela hides the body under the bed and like shoves the bunk back over.
Oh, she's gonna stink.
Yeah. And the counselor, we go back to the counselor who took all those kids camping, comes back to where he left all the sleeping children and comes back to like minced meat in blankets. Like it was just, these kids have been chopped up like badly.
Yeah, it's like sleeping bag feathers and like body parts kind of all strewn out. And here's one thing. So like in the kill count and then in like an article thing where it goes over like who all has died, they say that it's 4 kids that are killed. And I think that you can count like 4 sleeping bags. But so the counselor who finds the kids, like he like is shocked and like kind of throws up, and then he runs back to, I assume, his car. And I don't know how far they are because he calls the camp and Ronnie answers and says that like the kids that had stayed behind are dead. So Ronnie's freaking out and calls the police and gets all the other counselors because they need to go find all of the kids who are still there because they want to protect them. But they say, Ronnie says 3 kids died.
I counted 3 because 5 kids went out, 2 went back. Also, Angela may not have known that it was an empty like sleeping bag and just chopped. So
yeah, the kill count says 4. This other thing says 4. But then when I was literally just watching it, I was like, they say 3.
Yeah.
So like there's like a mismatch, but I'm gonna go by what my boy Ronnie says. So Ricky has not gone to the social, but he comes up to the rec hall after the social is supposedly over, and Jeff doesn't want to let him in, but Ricky says that dinner made him feel sick, so he's been laying down and now he's hungry. So Jeff lets him in, and then like 3 seconds later, this kid comes out with 2 handfuls of candy bars. I'm like, I mean, it's perfect kid logic, but I'm like, honey, if your stomach has been hurting you, this is not what you should do. But
No.
he's literally so happy. Like the way that he's eating this like chocolate bar or whatever, he's having the time of his life. And he has no idea that everyone's about to get like grouped up together because there's a murderer.
Yeah. And
So-
he's been unfazed by the murders so far that we can tell.
Yeah, the whole time. Then he is walking down the road, I assume to go back to his bunk because everybody's supposed to go there. Like that's what all the counselors are shouting now. Nobody's told them that more kids are dead. But Mel drags Ricky into the forest, just starts like beating him, like hands over his head, like an ape, just
Yeah.
like smashing down on him, saying that he's not gonna let him get away with this. Mel knew it was Ricky the whole time, and Ricky's just like, what are you talking about? And then we don't hear Ricky talk anymore.
Yeah. And when Mel got done, he's like, I got him. And then he's like, oh, wait, I got to get away. Like the realization, the clarity that came after that, he was like, oh, shit, I just killed a kid. Like, I got to go. As he's walking through the woods to try and get away, he goes into like an archery range because we see like a target in the background.
Mhm.
And Mel goes, it can't be you. And just arrow straight to the throat. Good aim.
I thought it was a really great shot. So the effect of it is like the arrow like goes through like the base of his throat, and then you see the tip of it on the other side. So there's like some special effect where they had like a spring-loaded tip on the backside to be able to like pop it up behind his neck. I think it looks really good.
Yeah. I do wish that there was blood.
Well, the blood, I mean, it's pretty quick, but the blood would be mostly on the other side anyway on that exit hole.
Probably.
Presumably. So
But
Mel's
with-
dead. Mel did not get the right man.
Nope.
And
Which Mel was never outright mean to Angela, but I'm guessing Angela saw what he did to Ricky, and that was her defending Ricky.
that and or,
Meg.
you know, Mel didn't prevent what Angela had been put through during camp. So
Yeah.
revenge either way.
Yeah. So we then see Mr. Police Officer Mustache telling all the counselors to get your kids and get them all
I
rounded
skipped
up.
that. Yeah, I forgot that the cop was back for that. They're looking
Yeah, that's-
everywhere just to get all the kids grouped back up.
Yeah. Paul arrives to the waterfront with Angela, and she tells him to strip down and let's go swimming. And he's like, doesn't even question it, just starts getting naked. And Angela's hair is like a mess, and he doesn't like feel like, are you good? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I know nothing. Angela just kind of like turns back to see like if anyone's like there or following them.
And she like slowly starts to like unbutton her top shirt or her top button. But so Gino and the officer come across like a candy wrapper, and obviously that means there's a child around. So they're searching even further, and they find Ricky, and he breathes. And I'm like, oh, thank God, Ricky is okay.
Ricky is alive.
And we go to the other group, and the one, or actually it's still the same officer, but they are all together, and they find Meg dead, and the mustache man is stunned, like he shocked. And I'm like
the
out
two
of all
counselors,
this, you're
the two counselors that found Meg inside like scream and run out of the bunk, so the officer of course has to go in it, and then like he comes out with like that stunned face of like what he's seen, and they do this close up on him, so now you can tell like the mustache is not as beautiful as it once was.
right.
And everyone laughs. I'm like, yeah, like it's a thing, but like chill the fuck out. Like kids are dying.
Right. This is serious.
So they're just saying
but-
that they've got to get all their kids. So all the counselors and everybody have spread out. Ronnie and Susie are together, and they're like going toward the beach to look for anybody who's left, and they kind of hear some humming,
And
and
it's kind of dark at this point too. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah,
gotten a
like,
little
it's
bit darker.
night.
It's nighttime now.
yeah, it's night. Everybody's been killed at night, but it's like even darker because it's like by the water and there's just not like the building lights and stuff. They hear the humming, and Susie kind of like leads Ronnie down, and then they see like a kid's back, like a naked back, and then like shapes. They don't really know what's going on. And then like I guess they can like see the face or something. And they're like, Angela? And then it just cuts to a flashback of a kid with like a big head bandage on, and Aunt Martha talking about how she's so excited to have a little girl in the house. She always wanted a little girl. And she's like, we already have a boy, assuming Ricky. Like, no, another boy wouldn't do. I'm so excited to have a little girl, and you'll be so excited too, won't you, Peter? And then, like, the little kid's head lifts up, and then it just cuts right to present day Angela standing up, making like this quote unquote iconic face of like jaw dropped, like a little like hissing, growling, screamy sound.
Yeah,
And
it was
then
kind of creep. Like that part actually, like the sound that came out, I was like, oh, that's creepy.
it is, and it's very unsettling. And Ronnie and Susie are just looking, and they're like, she's a boy. And then we go to like a full body shot, and it's a man's body, Angela's face. And then we cut back to like a close up of just the face, and then like the screen turns like green, and then the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of thoughts that I have about this movie in general. I would love to hear yours since you have only just seen it for the first time.
I really didn't know what to expect because you didn't tell me anything about it.
I couldn't.
But I started out, the voices bothered me because I was like, ugh, the 80s in New York. But I really got into it after a while trying to like, who the fuck is doing this? Like, is it Angela? Is it Ricky? And then like, are they working together? Because when Angela was after, I think it was after Meg had died, she's like, where's Ricky? Or it was even before, and I thought they were gonna like team up to go kill Judy or Meg or somebody. The twist at the end, you don't there's not a lot of movies that you can't like guess what it is. Didn't even come close to guessing that.
How do you
Like,
feel about it in the terms of, so from what I've heard from a lot of people, or just like opinions, I guess, is that this is like the horror genre degrading trans people, or like it's a bad representation. And
well,
I would love to hear what your thoughts are.
I wondered that, like how trans people would feel about it, because it kind of makes Angela out to be the aggressor, and like at the end, you know, because she's murdered all of these people. But I don't view Angela as like truly like trans, because she didn't choose this. She was forced into this, you know, role of being a woman that she never wanted to be. And so she's traumatized. Like for me, it's not a trans person, it's a traumatized person. Like it's not, so I could see like people being like, oh, this makes like people afraid of trans people or something like that. Like, oh, you don't want, you know, somebody with a penis in the women's bathroom because it's dangerous. It's not, because like I guarantee you the people that are dangerous are the ones who are afraid of the trans people.
The ones who are policing.
Yeah, the ones who are like checking. But
that's awful. Yeah, and I agree. I absolutely agree with all of your points, and that's how I felt, because I mean, like, if I haven't seen a movie, I don't really like look up stuff about it because I don't want spoilers or anything. So I went into this completely blind. I did not expect the end. And I feel like because the end is so kind of intense, like it was more interesting to me and made me like want to rewatch it and be like, wait, how did I miss this?
Yeah,
there are some tiny little hints to Angela being the killer, some stuff that we've mentioned. You can make the argument now that you know that Angela is Peter, about like Angela not being touched. Angela doesn't want to go in the water. Angela doesn't want to shower with everybody.
Right.
Because of the physicality that's different. So I think, I mean, for the movie part, like that's all fine. I agree. I do not think that this movie paints trans people in any kind of light. I don't understand that argument, because I feel like if that's your argument, you didn't watch the movie.
Yeah, if anybody is the true like villain, is Aunt Martha.
Yeah.
And Meg.
Well,
And
yeah,
Judy.
like
it's
the
it's
real,
the
it's like the
bullies.
movie villain, the real villain. That would be a
Right.
good like post, be like Judy and Meg, Aunt Martha, because when we're introduced to Aunt Martha, and like she's crazy pants,
Right.
but the way that she comes off, it's just like, oh, she's just like the crazy lady. When
she's quirky, she's
and that's also the thing, and this can happen in several different ways other than just this particular example. But I don't think that Aunt Martha thinks that she's crazy. I think she just saw a way to, she wanted a daughter.
get her little girl
Now
because
she's
her
got a
husband
daughter.
left.
And it's just like, now we know from the very, very beginning that Ricky was with his dad, like the day of the accident. So like there's some like family issues, like where Martha and her husband are
Right.
divorced, or like baby daddy situation, whatever. So there's, you know, some kind of trauma. We don't know anything else about Aunt Martha. She's a doctor. We don't even know what kind of doctor.
Right. Is she just like
Is she a dentist?
It's like when people right, I was just like, it's like when people who are dentists say that they're doctors, and people are like, you're not a doctor. They're like, I went to medical school.
I'm like, you're a doctor. So, you're just like a mouth doctor. So, but that's like
yeah.
the thing. Like, we don't know anything about her. We don't have any other motivation to why she's done this other than the fact that she just wanted to have a boy and a girl. I mean, maybe if John like is her brother, like maybe she was jealous that he had a boy and a girl. We don't know anything about that.
Yeah. And we also don't know anything about like how she was brought up, how she was taught, like how Angela was treated from day one to this, and you know what her triggers could be on certain things, and like the things that Aunt Martha may have said that try to like basically brainwash her into being her little girl.
Yeah. So it's just abuse. Even if it's not perceived abuse, it is abuse.
If anything, what this movie, I guess, is proving is if you force people to be something that they authentically are not, that it can lead to
genocide.
Consequences of,
I guess not genocide. I don't know, just genocide count? Mass murder.
Yeah, murder, suicide, all the different kinds of things. Like if you force people to be something that they are not, bad things happen, basically. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that kind of keeps the movie like a fun, light, so to speak, watch. I mean, it's a slasher film.
Right.
It definitely has, in my mind, more like depth and layers versus like Friday the 13th and Halloween, because those movies all came out like, you know, within like 5 years of each other. So like the summer camp slasher and stuff like that like was very prominent in this time of movies being released. I think like I would rather watch Sleepaway Camp than Friday the 13th or Halloween. Like Halloween is really good, but Sleepaway Camp I think is more entertaining and enjoyable, and I enjoy the characters much more.
I think for me, if I'm watching a movie, I want to feel something or think about something. If a movie can't make me feel something, like I don't feel scared watching Friday the 13th or Halloween, because you know they're classic horror movies, like you can expect what's going to happen. But with Sleepaway Camp, you're more inclined to be thinking, what is happening this whole time, and be a little bit more engaged thoughtfully.
Well, and like in Friday the 13th, you know, it's just a string of murders happening, and most of the time like they're people that are, I mean, and it happens all in one day basically, but you know, they're off on their own anyway, so it takes until almost the end for people to even be looking for each other, to wonder what's going on. It's just a series of events, and then, you know, out of the blue we get like the reveal of what's going on. And with Halloween, we know Michael Myers breaks out of the prison in the beginning and that he's going home, so there's less mystery. To me, absolutely classics and wonderful in their own right. Out of the three, I would just rather watch Sleepaway Camp. The sequels,
more personality.
Yeah, that's good. The sequels, so Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, are very, very different. They continue the story with Angela Baker. Do you want me to even spoil it for you? Do we want to even deal with that on the podcast?
I don't want to spoil it because I want to watch it.
Okay, they're good. They're just absolutely different. They're not horror movies anymore. They're slashers. So they're very different. So you can go into it with that. And then there's Sleepaway Camp 4, Return to Sleepaway Camp. I have not seen that. It's not on anything, so I would have to like find a website versus like watching it on like Freevee or something.
Yeah.
I did just see something that Jonathan Tiersten, who plays Ricky, is in that. So I don't know if there's anyone else
Oh.
in that. So that's probably like the requel thing
Right.
where they've
The
like
older versions.
I don't
of
know
the-
if it's going to have anything to do with the events of what happened in Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, or if it's going to
Right.
basically be like from Sleepaway Camp 1 to Sleepaway Camp 4.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in watching it. I
Okay.
would be curious to see. Do you see why I recommended this as our Pride Month episode?
Yeah. Shocking turn of events, but yes, at first I was like, oh, because the dads are gay, but then I was like, oh, now I understand
There it is.
a little bit more. But it was a good choice.
Yeah. Oh, our talking points and topics. This one thing can't believe I didn't mention this whole time. So I just as like a fun little thing, I watched this movie like 3 times for the podcast. I watched it in the theaters because they did the event. And then I like rewatched it to take all my notes. And then I felt like I was like typing out all my notes and everything in my thoughts and opinions. So I feel like I wasn't actually watching the movie and paying attention. So then I went back and watched it a 3rd time just to like be like, hee, I'm enjoying it. And something that I had thought about while I was watching it the other 2 times was like, how many times does Judy sigh during this movie? Because she does like her little mean girl thing, and then she's like, I have to do the sigh again.
Yeah, do the sigh, but don't go too high pitch. Maybe it'll register it.
Okay, well, I'm pretending to be like a 14-year-old girl. My voice goes high.
Sorry.
She just goes like, and like her little thing. And that's what I was like watching the 3rd time. So it's like she doesn't do it at all like in the first half hour of the movie. The movie is like a solid 90 minutes, like right around there. So a third of the movie is over before she even starts her little nonsense. And then I counted for sure 11 sighs. And then she dies, I think, maybe with like 10, 15 minutes left of the movie, maybe closer to 10 probably, because the last from the point of definitely the point of where the Ronnie says like what counselors have like the night off, and then like saying that they're going to take the little kids camping, like the rest of the movie is like boom 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 done, like it's like almost over. So they're doing a bunch of stuff in the last like 10-15 minutes. So say that there's 30 plus 40 is 70, so say that there's like approximately 40 minutes of this movie available for Judy to sigh like crazy. She sighs 11 times. I think
that's a lot.
I think there might be a 12th time, but when I was like watching it, I couldn't like verify for sure, and I was trying to watch it like on my lunch break, so I was like fast forwarding through scenes that Judy wasn't in to be like, how many times does this girl sigh? So that's just like our fun little note. I think Sleepaway Camp is a very heavy movie at times with the themes and like the think pieces about it. I don't think the actual movie is heavy, but just the connotations of things, and that's why I felt it was important to do it during Pride Month. Trans people exist. They're not going anywhere. We need to protect them and actually be kind. So that was my little message about why I would choose that movie to put it in here, because also I think Sleepaway Camp gets a bad rap for the representation that I don't even believe is the representation of the plot. So that's my soapbox. That's why I wanted to highlight it and point out that trans people are just people, and assholes stop being assholes. The end.
I concur.
Anything else you want to say?
The only other thing I was going to say, and I'll probably take this out, but I was like, during work, when I go into the office, sometimes I count how many times Sheila sighs, because I always have, she sighs really loud and I go, what's wrong? And then she has to tell me about it every time. So it's at least 7 times a day. So she may be Judy, just older. But no, I think I could see how people could take this movie the wrong way and see how it kind of paints trans people in a bad light, but I don't think that was the intention, and I don't think that's what happened. But I think when people try to, you know,
villainize.
They try to like create a boogeyman and villainize people and like create fear. That's what kills people, is fear. And so there's literally no reason to be afraid of trans people or drag queens or gay people. in general.
I mean, I'm very scary, but I think that's just my attitude.
People say that I'm intimidating.
I think you're just tall.
It could be. I also have RBF sometimes, so I could do it.
But yeah, that's the whole point. I personally, if anybody if anybody listens to us at all, for starters, but if anybody, has listened to this and has questions or thoughts about, the trans quote unquote representation from Sleepaway Camp, or any questions, or just want a safe space, I will always listen and be an ally. I mean, I'm part of the LGBTQ, but I'm just the B, and so I gotta protect my T. So I'm here, and I will always fight. So that's how I feel about it. Just to put like a safe place. If anybody who listens to this has any problems with trans people, then they can catch these hands. The end. Thank you guys for listening. We hope that you enjoyed our episode, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Find us on Twitter or Instagram to request a movie, or even just to discuss your thoughts at Booze and Boobs, or send us an email, boozeandboobs@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we're working on turning this into a thing. So if you can please follow us on Patreon, our account there is Booze and Boobs also.
And what are some of the benefits to joining our Patreon?
Oh, Katrina, I am so glad that you asked. As a patron, you will get early release episodes, bloopers, mini episodes where we showcase scenes from the movies that we're talking about, or just conversations that we're having that we had to cut from our recording.
All that and more. And they're fun tiers. You can be an A cup, a C cup, or you can join the Triple D plus group like us.
We truly appreciate your support, and we look forward to growing our following to create more content for listeners like you.
So we'll see you next time, or else.
Yeah, let's end it with a threat.